Today we are going to take a look at modules. The two modules specifically we're going to go over today are going to be the sites module and the support module, or modules. The support module requires linking two modules together to a controller and then to the actual support, but we'll go over that later. First thing we're going to do is the sites module. If you watched my first tutorial, there was a point at which I said you can man this entire airbase with just about 5 or 6 clicks. So let's get to it. Click modules, drop it down. The category we're looking for is sites, and since we actually took Air Station Mike 26 after that mission, we'll leave it as a Blue Force site. And the site type, you can have a base or an observation post, traffic checkpoint, and there are others. I think some of them are not working yet, so we'll take a look at base. And you do the axes, and we'll do 200 by 200. I think that should fill the whole base up. Interactive, this will make a pop-up when you move into the area, and it'll tell you where you are. For our purposes, or for my purposes, I use no. For your purposes, you can use yes. It doesn't really matter. It's your choice. Fast travel, no. And building occupation, this is the big one. We want the building, well, first of all, let's put the building occupation at 100%, so 1. Just so we can see. And it's right in the middle of the base. So what this module is going to do is it's going to fill every single building in this base that's military with military personnel, and they're going to be friendly. So let's put our unit down. Grenadier as usual. And let's check it out. Now, you see those observation towers are properly filled instead of the guys struggling to get up them, except in the case of when they're clipping through, but I'm sure that'll be fixed. But more importantly, you can see that every single slot of every single building is full. Now, this only applies to the military buildings, all of these hasty built buildings that are on stilts. It does not apply to that office building over there. Another thing that the module does is it'll post a quick reaction force or two in the base in the form of a vehicle with a couple of dismounts. So let's go check inside that building, the office building. Alright, and you're going to see there's no one in here. I guess it's not considered a military building, even though I'm pretty sure it's called military offices in the editor itself. And this is why, in the first video, I showed you how to do it the hard way. Because if you want this building filled up, you have to do it yourself, at least as of right now. But you already know how to do that. Now, you can still drop units to patrol around, or to stand around, or to do whatever you want inside the base, sort of like a quick reaction force. I personally find the grenade machine guns to be a little bit powerful for the infantry type missions that I usually do. I think there's even going to be a second one somewhere. I don't see it though. So, what I like to do instead of using the base site, go back in the editor. Instead of using base, I use OP, observation post. And what that does, the only difference that I've seen between the two is base actually puts the vehicles in there and OP only puts men down. I've tried Firebase, which should put mortar teams down, but it doesn't do anything. And like I said, the other ones I don't think are working yet. So this time we'll check out the OP. And the only difference is going to be there's not going to be the vehicles there. Alright, now we've got the OP, and the guys are still in the towers, manning all the positions. Pretty sure there's guys up in that one also. Yep. But now, instead of a vehicle here in the middle, you've just got a force of foot mobiles. And that's what we want. And I know there's another tower. Well, let's go check it out. And that radar dish, or I don't even know what it's called, radar tower, is not considered a military building. And you can see there's another OP over there that is also manned. So that's how to man an entire area in just about 10 clicks. Alright, so let's go back and take a look at a couple of the other things we can do with the sites module. First thing we're going to do is, instead of manning the entire base with the module, we're just going to man the 3 OP towers. There's one here, one down here, and one up here. Now, one thing I've noticed is that you cannot overlap site types. So I couldn't put the base and the observation post sites down at the same time. So keep in mind when you're putting the site modules down that you cannot overlap them. It won't work. But say we want to man this base manually, but make sure that the towers are properly manned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the axis down to 10 by 10. I could probably do 5 by 5. But I'm going to drop it right on top of the OP towers. And I'm going to copy, paste, paste. Now, the only thing that should be manned in this whole base is those 3 OP towers. Let's take a look.
Halt. Stop.
Oh, I forgot about this one. So there's one that's manned, 2 that's manned, and we'll trust that the third one over there that's manned. However, you will notice that now that reactionary force that was in the middle of the whole base, standing right here, now each tower has one. So it looks like every time you drop that site module, it always makes sure to have a dismount force, or at least a mobile force. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're just trying to man the towers, it's also going to put friendlies on foot at the bottom of every tower. And as you can see, none of the other buildings are manned anymore, which was primarily that one, because neither of these were ever manned. Now let's take a look at this from a different angle. Say we want to man the town with civilians. So we go back to modules, which is the 3 boxes over here. And how big is this town? It's about 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's about 300 by 400 meters. Let's do 400 by 400. So put right in the center. I think the axis will actually be, I think it's a radius, not a diameter. So it'll be 200 by 200. And we change it from blue for site to civilian settlement. And then on top of civilian settlement, you have the faction for once more civilian types are added, and then the type, village, farm, or fishing. And we're going to do a village. And as I said, we're going to make it 200 by 200. Didn't I just do this? And you can keep the on-screen info here. That'll be kind of cool when someone moves into a village that its name will pop up. And of course, leave fast travel disabled. And you'll see that there's no building garrison amount, because the civilians won't go into buildings right now. So, okay. Make sure it's in the middle. And we'll move our player from here into town. And we'll check it out. Now, instead of populating immediately like it did with the other site, now this is an error you're going to see pop up when you use the civilian sites module. I'm sure it'll be fixed eventually, but for right now, you're going to see it every time. But as I was saying, instead of populating immediately, it takes a while for the civilian sites to get populated. But once you start running around, you'll start seeing civilian vehicles. They'll be parked, and of course, you'll see the civilians. And there we go. And I guess in Limnos or Stratus, they like to just park their vehicles wherever the fuck they want. But that's fine. It's your village. You park where you want. We're seeing a lot more vehicles than we are civilians. We are seeing some civilians at least. What the hell does that even say? I don't even care. So, if you played ArmA 2 and you used ambient civilians, you know that ambient civilians could really slow your system down a lot. And what this does is, instead of putting ambient civilians randomly all over the map, it only puts them in areas that you specify, which is really cool. Because you can make certain towns deserted and certain towns full of people, and it won't destroy your system whenever you move from town to town and it decides, oh, I need to spawn civilians and vehicles here. And that about wraps it up for site types with the modules. This one is quick and easy. As I said, you can get an entire village populated with just a few clicks, or an entire base populated with just a few clicks. And as I also said, you know, populating the base isn't always going to be enough with just the module. You're still going to want to manually put some units down, like a patrol going around the outside, or more guys on the inside of buildings, or guys on the inside of buildings that aren't considered military. And next we're going to be taking a look at the support modules.
Alright, I'm engaging.
Oh shit!
Yes. Wow.
Fire in the hole, fire in the hole, fire in the hole.
Alright, let's fall back.